And welcome back to another episode of I Heard That. I'm Tanya.
I'm Tina.
I'm Charlotte.
Once again, we thank you guys so much for joining our conversation and coming to discuss books with us. Please hit the subscribe button and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. The links are listed below. As always, we're bringing books. And today's book is Let Me Love You, the McLean Brothers Book 1 by Alexandria House. Okay, a little bit of background about the book. It is part of a series. So there are 4 McLean brothers and a McLean sister. The sister book is a novella, but the 4 brothers are succinct. This book on Kindle Unlimited received 5 stars out of 755 reviews, and on Goodreads it received a 4.64 out of over 2,000 reviews. It's also available on Audible, published in February of 2018. Now, I read the book, actually, let me just rephrase that. I read all of the books, but I originally read the book when it first came out. I picked this book because my sisters and I were having a conversation, and they said, hey, Tanya, or hey, Tina, have you guys read any books that are black on black love? Because most of the books that we've been finding have been interracial couples. And I actually happen to know, I have a list of about 30 authors who do black on black love. But this book came to mind because it had been blowing up in some of the chat rooms that I'm in. Both because of its Audible and both in the Audible version and in the print version. And everybody was like, oh my God, you've got to read this series. You got to read this series. So I said, okay, we'll read the series. So we'll get into it. Alrighty, so Let Me Love You. Do I have to start?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay, Let Me Love You. Story, it is a romance book. It is black love. It is a DJ. Well, he's not a DJ. He's a rapper. And sometimes when I read books, and I'm sure you guys do the same thing, you try to cast folk in it. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, I'm like, is this more like a LL Cool J kind of guy? Or is this more like Puffy? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I was trying to figure out who I could kind of link him to. But the lead character, the lead guy, is a superstar rapper. And he's been through a series of things, and he finds his love in a girl named Jo. I liked it.
I like Jo. She was a simple girl, nothing spectacular, so they said about her, but she was 100% natural. She was just being herself. I like that. I found it kind of refreshing in the storyline, and that his rapping lifestyle didn't necessarily overpower her, but she became a part of it while still maintaining her own individuality, which I liked. I also liked that she became an entrepreneur in her own right through this book. So I kind of liked it. I thought it was kind of pretty smooth.
So I did not. So here's what happened for me. As I was reading this book, I thought this is unrealistic, and I did not like the characters. As I was going through it, and then I realized this book ain't for me, and that's okay. And once I realized that I needed to take myself out of it and not make it about like my world or being able to relate to it, I end up enjoying the book. Okay. But I had to get halfway through the book and then realize, okay, Tina, the way you see things, or the way that you would want romance, aka something like Love Jones, this is not this book, and that's not this audience, right? And so I think that it was a well-written book and defined for the audience that it was for. It's just not for me.
And let me just say this, because I think that is so interesting. You're like, I think it was unrealistic. But this is the girl who loves sci-fi. Half of what you read is not realistic. It all is fantasy. It all is make-believe. It's all underworld. Yeah. Now, I will say that I think that I'm probably a little bit older than the target market of the book. But I only say that because they make cultural pop references, which would probably be more for a younger audience than I am. Yeah. Now, I will give you that. Yes. I will give you that. But Okay, so let me just go back. Because I start talking with my hands tying. Okay. I get excited and y'all gonna see all right. I'm trying to be conscious of my head.
Right.
Within this romance genre.
Yes.
And I'm just gonna say that I think like this book for me represents the middle of the urban romance, where it's a lot of B's and H's and everybody's a drug dealer and she's on the pole. And I read some of those too, so I ain't saying nothing negative. I'm just saying that's not this.
No,
but
it's
I've
not
also read some other books by Christina C. Jones and Love Bevelin, where with Christina, and I think we've talked about it before, it's neo soul. So it feels a little bit more like The Photograph, where all of the people in the book are entrepreneurs. They're all on their own businesses. They're all doing well. They're all maybe a little bit more mature. So if this is the 25-year-old book, then the Christina C. Jones book and her, I think it's Mahogany Heights, they may be the 30-year-old book. So the language is a little bit more mature. So this ain't Christina, but it also ain't, well, my favorite author for the urban was Casey Mills, but it also isn't Casey Mills. I think it's that middle of the road in between the two.
It took me, like I said before, it took me a minute. There's some things that I personally just don't like when I'm reading, when I'm into a book and I don't understand some of the things. And I used to say this, and this could be just me being self-aware of who I am as a woman, right? And talking about it. So like I used to say that one of the things that bothers me about romance and everything else is that the way that they present what love is, or the way that they present what romance is, or whatever else, doesn't really to me is disturbing. And so this book kind of did that a little bit, and it's hard for me to get out of my way when I'm reading something that does that. So as an example, so the whole thing where he just like sees her and then he just instantly like, I gotta get with her, like instantly, like I'm like full out, I'm chasing her down, and she's like, I'm having this like visceral effect and all the rest of that. I mean, Lord knows there been some guys, I mean, like, oh my God, yes. But it just seemed like it was just a little too much for me.
And that is so funny that you say that, because I kind of think that's how me and my husband got together. And I'm going to say this because he saw me and I saw him and we both thought that each other was cute. Right. But I was like, he ain't ready for me. But I wasn't too far away from him. Like I would always be in around the periphery till he got ready. But at the first time we saw each other, absolutely.
Right, exactly. Absolutely. And I like, again, it's stuff like when she says, when in the book, when she becomes, they know her, right? The paparazzi knows her. And they're trying to quote unquote put her on and all this other kind of stuff, right? And she goes to these meetings and she's getting licensing deals, right? And they're like, oh, she's making boss moves. She's an entrepreneur. I'm like, that's not entrepreneurship. And so, again, that's how my work. That's how my mind works. That's not entrepreneurship. You getting on and you being able to have a brand and being able to do that, that's great. But that's not the same thing as somebody who literally creates something out of nothing. They have their talent, they have something else, and then they move it on. So that was kind of like, you are opportunistic, kind of like the Kardashians. That's what I thought to myself when I was reading it. I'm like, okay.
I didn't get none of that.
I know. I'm just saying. I didn't. It's not. And I want to say this really clearly. I think that the author was a great author. The prose and how she was writing through everything, I thought she did a magnificent job. I think that she did a good job in terms of world building and everything else. It's just not my type of book.
Okay, so since we were reliving stories, I might as well interject here, because that's exactly how they met, was how me and Robert met in the church room when I was in the choir stand. And he was in the pulpit. And I mean in the audience. And he saw me and I saw him, and I saw sparks fly. And maybe that's just how I had. And then we dated after that. It was always.
It's not. They met on some ratchetness.
Yeah, that was kind of ratchet.
And what I'm saying is like
in the church.
I met my husband. I felt the same thing. Met him, whatever else, and I know that happens. The issue with her was that she was like, "No, I'm not interested," and he was exceptionally persistent. And what I'm saying is that sometimes in real life, a dude that's exceptionally persistent is a stalker. And you need to run.
Well, I'm waiting for the persistent man right now. You don't have to stop by 1983 Kentucky again.
You silly.
Okay, you don't have to do that. Okay.
I mean, I think he has some good.
Okay, one other thing I have to cut you off. Pineapples. It brought a whole new respect for me for pineapples, okay? Because it makes you feel, it makes you taste a certain type of way. I have now gone to buy pineapples in my refrigerator. I have pineapple cups. I also have sliced pineapples.
So you got pineapples and grapefruits, right?
Okay, bam. Okay,
so you got girl strip. So you got girl strip, grapefruits and pineapples. Okay, so Chazette is ready. Chazette is ready. I will say the best part about the book is how she talked about his family, and like how close they were, the things that they did, and you know where he came from or whatever else. And I think that was one of the things that kind of threw me off a little bit was some of the ways he talked about, like she talked about the fact that he was, dogging women, right? He was talking about like the way he dogged women or whatever else. And then he was like, well, that was when I was younger. But then his new stuff did the same thing. So I was like, okay, how was that younger? Like, I get people can change and stuff like that. In the book, he made a big thing about I was 20 years ago. When 10 years ago, whatever else, and I'm different now. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but the new music you're saying is pretty much the same. So
I will say this though, and I really, really enjoyed it. In fact, I've read the series twice now, but that's neither here nor there. The one thing that I would have liked is for Joe to have been more actualized.
Yes.
And trust me, I have no issue with, and it's a spoiler alert, a woman who just wants to be a housewife and a mother. I really don't. Yeah. I mean, if that's what you want to do, then that's fine. But then when that first marriage fell apart, it's okay. After the first marriage fell apart, she just went to the next husband and she just brought on him as opposed to her evolving.
Right.
Like you got to see his evolution.
Yeah.
You got to see he was this way and then you saw his growth and where he came to be. She just settled into the next relationship, I think, without necessarily discovering who she was. And I would have liked to have seen Joe be a little more actualized.
And Tanya, you know what? I think that's an excellent point because I do think that's what, because it isn't that I did, like again, I thought this woman did a really good job of world building and trying to set the scene and all the rest of it. So I don't have any of those issues like in some of the past books we've read. But I would have liked, as you said, I like a strong woman. I like a strong woman. A strong woman, even if it's kind of raunchy book or whatever else, it just does something to me because I'm like, okay, this person is holding their own. And in a lot of ways, whenever she was trying to be strong, she called herself Evil Joe. And I was like, you're not evil, you're standing up. You're not letting somebody walk over you. How is that being evil? Right? So I didn't like that about that kept bothering me, and then so it was like it was a little uneven for me.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with that. That would have been my one criticism. But other than that, I thought I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
I liked it.
Well, I definitely like the description of him.
Ooh, yes, child.
Yes, child.
Yes, baby.
That's what I'm saying.
All I got to say is
development going on.
All I got to say again, and I said it before, pineapples.
But I will say this, and we just talked about some other books where they had interracial couples, and once again, I have no issue with it. Is that the skin tones and the race should be secondary to the story. But then when you read, and when you contrast this with a story where both of the main characters are black, it doesn't read the same way. And that was my, that's the difference.
Yeah, I thought it was, like I said before, it just, as soon as I got out of my head and said, Tina, this is a romance novel for somebody that's in their 20s and they think about things in a different kind of a way. And so you have to let that be, and there's nothing wrong. It is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it's just, when I think about romance novel, I think about the things that I'm interested in seeing, and it's a little different.
Okay. All right, great discussion. And so now we get to the last part, and y'all know what that is. How do we rate this book?
Ooh, what am I gonna say?
All right, Chazette, how would you rate this book?
I actually like the book, and I'm going to read the next one, so I'm going to give this a 10.
Woo, that's a high score.
Pineapples.
Obviously, you have find out.
And I'm gonna tell you that the theme keeps going throughout the rest of it. They introduce more stuff.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh wow. Continue.
So, like I said, it wasn't for me, but I would give this a 7.
I'm with y'all, Zed. Like I said, I'm a 10. I read it twice. In terms of, like I said, it's not the raunchy ones, even though I have read them and enjoyed them, and it's not quite my neo soul books. But for what it was, I actually really enjoyed it. So, and our second part of that is because Alexandria House has written several books. Would you read the rest of the series?
Yes, I'm going to read the rest of the series. I am going to.
I don't know if I want to read the rest of this series, but I'll probably read some more of her books.
Well, I've read more of her books and the rest of the series. So yeah, Let Me Love You, the McLean Brothers book 1. It has been blowing up in the indie circles. There are lots of women who've been talking about this book and loving this book. We all liked it, but I guess our average would probably be about an 8.5 if we were going to rank us together. So absolutely, this is a book that we would recommend. This is a book we would absolutely recommend.
Absolutely.
Thank you once again for joining us, for joining our conversation. This has been another episode of I Heard That. Please hit the subscribe button and be sure to follow our links for both Facebook and Twitter, and they're listed below. All right, guys. See you the next time. Bye.